Well, here we are. A few short hours after we recorded the flagship podcast.
It's happened again.
We find ourselves in the position of having to bin an entire hour and a half of quite good quality material to discuss the fact that Brendan Rodgers has astonishingly resigned from Celtic, and the reason I put that in air quotes will become quite apparent. I'm joined by Stephen and Melly for this live reaction. So first of all, let me just get the formalities out the way. 9:44 p.m. Celtic Football Club can confirm that football manager Brendan Rodgers today has tendered his resignation. It has been accepted by the club and Brendan will leave with immediate effect. The club appreciates Brendan's contribution to Celtic during his two very successful periods. Brendan leaves with a thanks for the role he played in during a period of continued success for the club and wish him further success in the future. The process to appoint a new manager is underway and the club will update supporters further on this as soon as possible. We are pleased that during this interim period, former Celtic manager, and I can scarcely believe this, Martin O'Neill and former Celtic player Sean Maloney have agreed to take charge of first team matters. Further details will be confirmed shortly. Following that statement, majority shareholder Brendan Rodgers and majority shareholder DESMOND released his own absolutely seething, cutting statement, the likes of which I've never seen before, really, from any football club owner or anyone associated with Celtic towards a manager. But before we get to Dermot's feelings on the matter, I'm going to come to you boys for your initial reaction. Melly.
Genuine disbelief, mate. I couldn't speak. I haven't been in this much disbelief since the last time Brendan resigned. And again, it's like that meme. Our expectations were low, but holy fudge. Martin O'Neill in at Celtic. I cannot believe it.
73-year-old Martin O'Neill. Put some respect on that man's age.
Genuine disbelief here. I'm really shocked. We sat here talking about will he be sacked or whatever. Never expected him to go, and then for Celtic to go out there and bring in Martin O'Neill just shows exactly what this club are right now.
Stephen.
Very similar boat. I am astonished at this. I am dumbfounded. Can barely find the words to articulate exactly how I feel about this because I don't know how I feel about it. This is quite literally live, raw, live and direct. Mm-hmm. This is 22:26 p.m. that we're recording this. Full context is that, yes, as you said, Jamie, we have just returned from our usual recording studio, usual recording slot, where we bashed out a conversation over the course of about an hour and a quarter over the various, kind of comings and goings and the various permutations of what we might see in the coming months for Celtic, including could Brendan Rodgers be sacked? Would Dermot Desmond ever dare to sack Brendan Rodgers? Would he step down? Was the time to step down right after the transfer window? All that stuff, we discussed it all, and we barely... I'd been up the road about an hour before this happened. I was sitting in my wee editing booth putting the podcast together, and all of a sudden the message came through, and I am still reeling from it. But to give you an idea what's going on, right? So I was, as I say, putting the podcast together, just getting the audio sorted so I can send it off to our great video editor, and he can start putting the podcasts together for release tomorrow morning. All of a sudden, I start getting loads of messages, right? And I look at my phone and I'm trying to process the information while also forwarding it on to as many people as I can. Meanwhile, I've got our Discord open in a tab in front of me, and that is flying, just messages. My heart was pounding at one point. I was like, I cannot take this in. As soon as we jumped on here, I looked at myself in the camera. I'm like, I'm white. I'm like chalk white. I'm totally shocked and in shock here. I'm processing this information as we speak now. This is not prepared in the slightest. This is simply a case of we sent each other messages saying, what the fuck are we going to do here? We're going to need to jump on and respond to this because that podcast we've recorded is dead. It's completely dead in the water. So complicated feelings, as I've just described, but I cannot believe what has happened here. How it has happened, most certainly more will come on this, right? But what we're left with, the end result is that Brendan Rodgers has left Celtic again. Left, in inverted commas, just following up on how you described it, Jay. Left Celtic again ahead of a semi-final against Rangers, and has left us with Martin O'Neill, who, I don't know, has he managed in the last 6-7 years? I'm really unsure. Nottingham Forest, I think, was his last job. And he lasted days in it, maybe a couple of months or something. And Sean Maloney, who they haven't even bothered telling us is a qualified coach and actual experienced manager in his own right, they've just said former Celtic player Sean Maloney takes over.
I would
with
prefer
Martin
if it was just Maloney.
Aye, I think Martin. I mean, Sean Maloney.
Where's John Kennedy in this? Is he gone?
Oh, good question. I hadn't even occurred to me. Again, responding live here. No idea what's happened to John Kennedy. No idea what's happened to Strachan.
I mean, there's no answers really going to be tonight. The answers are going to come out over the next couple of days.
If these are the answers, what are the questions, Jamie?
Well, how can we drive Celtic into the ground as far as they possibly go? That's the question.
So here's my first question. I've been up to a wee bit of mischief recently. I've been in the Discord. Everyone that's in the Discord knows Discord gets it first. That's the rule. And over the last day or so, I've been sort of cheekily saying things like, if Brendan gets sacked, I mean, you've been back and forth, Stephen, and you're not the only one. You've been saying, there's no way Brendan's getting sacked. He's Dermot's guy, and I was like, listen, I'm not so sure it's cut and dried in that. If Dermot gets sacked, we're going to end up with Martin O'Neill as Celtic manager, and that wasn't completely out of nowhere. I was saying that. The fact of the matter is, someone suggested that to me yesterday, and I thought it was so much bullshit that I didn't even bother putting a name to it. I could not believe this person who's usually quite close to things, and believe me, if I knew that and believed it, I would be saying, guys, I've heard this. But I'd heard the rumour that the feelers were out at Martin O'Neill to take over if or should something happen to Brendan, and I thought that is, one, exactly like what Celtic would do, and two, so unbelievable that I still can't fathom it. But it makes perfect sense when you think about it. But my initial thoughts on the Brendan Rodgers resignation are, I find it very hard to believe he resigned. 2 weeks ago he said he was more determined than ever to put it right.
2 days ago he said that?
Yeah,
2 days ago. He might be a bullshitter. He might be a complete bullshitter. But I just find there's no benefit to him coming out and just open mouth lying. But we're going to get to some of the lies.
Dermot Desmond has accused him of exactly that.
Yeah,
he's accused him of being a liar.
Get to that.
Yeah.
Aye, so my initial reaction is absolute shock. I'm shocked that Brendan's resigned. I'm bitterly disappointed that Brendan has gone as Celtic manager, because
I'm quite sad about it, if I'm honest. The conversations we've been having have been along these lines for weeks now. We've been talking about the possibility of Brendan Rodgers being sacked because of a result, maybe a string of results. Maybe he gets fed up and goes. All of this stuff. I never thought, and I never wanted it to be at 10 o'clock at night ahead of a semi-final, being called a liar on the way out. And look, again, I'm perfectly open to stuff coming out that proves things one way or another. But my initial reaction is one of, I like Brendan Rodgers. I'd kind of, as I've been saying all along this season, I'd kind of resigned myself to, I'd opened myself up to life beyond Brendan Rodgers. I wanted to kind of move on at some point. I don't want it to end like this. I don't want it to end.
You can't really move on if you're going back to Martin O'Neill.
Well, we'll get to that's the Martin O'Neill appointment as well.
Yeah, that's separate too. But my feelings on Brendan Rodgers are that I didn't want this at all. I wanted him to come back and sort of salvage his legacy or reputation, whatever that means. I wanted them. My feelings and my wishes for this season were that he goes out on a high, but goes out on a high. Not like this. This is arguably the worst version of anything that we could have asked for.
Is this a world class football club? Is this really how a world? It's a nonsense. Wow. So let's get to Dermot Desmond's statement, because we've skirted around the issue, and by now everyone would have read it. But this is the most astonishing statement I've ever read coming out of Celtic. We know Dermot loves to put statements out. He put one out recently. This is, buckle up for this. It's quite long, but I'll do my best to not be monotone and boring with it. Brendan Rodgers today's tenders the resignation of Celtic Football Club. Okay, I want to acknowledge Brendan's contribution across his 2 spells as manager, during which he helped deliver success that forms part of the club's modern history. However, I must also express my deep disappointment the way the past several months have folded. When we brought Brendan back to Celtic 2 years ago, it was done with a complete trust and belief in his ability to lead the club into a new era of sustained success. Unfortunately, his conduct and communication in recent months has not reflected that. And this is where this statement gets really excoriating about Brendan Rodgers. In June, both Michael Nicholson and I expressed to Brendan that we were keen to offer him a contract extension to reaffirm the club's full backing and long-term commitment to him. He said he would need to think about it and revert. Yet, in subsequent press conferences, Brendan implied that the club had made no commitment to offer him a contract. That was simply untrue. So I think part of my problem with everything that Celtic do is there's a lot of doublespeak, and you need to forensically go over, as a fan, which is a joke anyway, what each party said to try and get to the truth of the matter. So Dermot is saying Michael Nicholson and I expressed to Brendan that we were keen to offer him a contract extension.
Didn't offer.
That, to me, as you point out, Melly, is not the offer of a contract. So if Brendan Rodgers, and if I'm remembering correctly, Brendan Rodgers' comment was, there's been no offer. I'm sure that was what Brendan said.
Sorry to jump in here, but what we also have to remember is that Dermot Desmond is not a stupid man. He knows that these statements have to be run past legal. Like these statements will be forensically pulled over word for word to make sure everything is legally sound, so that there's no accusations being made, there's no defamation of character, any of that sort of stuff. If he had been offered a contract, he would have expressly written Brendan Rodgers was offered a contract in June, and Brendan Rodgers denied that publicly. The wording is, what was it expressed that they expressed desire to give him?
I expressed to Brendan that we were keen to offer him a contract
That's
extension.
not a contract offer.
No.
That's not a contract extension.
And we're talking about June last year, when Brendan Rodgers has a full year left on his contract. He saw how previous... I'm not going to be backing Brendan all the way here, but I'm just saying we've seen how the transfer business and all that has panned out. We know Brendan wasn't happy. Why would they accept it then? Why wouldn't he just wait? He says, let's see how things pan out. So, okay, that's my feelings on that particular part. We met with Brendan regularly, including in December last year and at the start of summer, with regular dialogue in between to discuss and agree our collective strategy, priorities and approach. Every player signed, every player sold during his tenure was done so with Brendan's full knowledge, approval and endorsement. Any insinuation otherwise is absolutely false. So this is the club signings, wow. the team. Again, though, what does that mean?
Yep.
What does Brendan signs off every play? You know, for talking sake, Adam Ida. Brendan may have said, yes, by all means, let Adam go, because Brendan was told other strikers were on the way.
Aye, Dolberg is he's helicoptering in as we speak. He's jetting into Celtic Park to sign terms, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. Therefore, we're then on to... the longer you sit here, the more stuff just starts appearing. Just at the back of your head, that Brendan Rodgers said things like for whatever reason, we couldn't get strikers over the line. Meanwhile, Adam Ida's been sold on the last day, and Iheanacho comes in the next day. So, I mean, it's not becoming any clearer, but more and more details are coming to light.
On you go, Melly.
Sorry, Jamie, just from what I heard at the time, Celtic gave Ida permission to go and speak to Swansea. Brendan was furious, called him back. But see, after that, if Brendan Rodgers says, look, he goes, because Ida could not play in that Glasgow derby because his head was gone. So there's a big difference between allowing a player to go after he's completely gone and just saying, just sell him.
Yeah.
Because that's totally different, isn't it?
So we need to be careful. We can't just say, like, this person's lying, that person's lying. But there are curiosities about this statement that has come out that us as fans are just finding a bit weird. His later public statements about transfers and club operations came entirely out of the blue. At no point prior to those remarks had he raised any such concern with me, Michael, or any member of the board or executive team. In reality, he was given final say over all football matters and was consistently backed in the recruitment process, including record investment in players he personally identified and improved. See if this is just a saying every player that we signed at the club, his profile was shown to the manager and he went, yeah, I'll take him for X, Y and Z reason. You cannot hang Brendan Rodgers out to dry like this when it was clear that the club hasn't... There's no way Brendan was happy at not having strikers or having right wingers, Stephen.
No, but I suppose the wording of that is that he's talking about Arne Engels there, isn't he?
Yes.
About how Arne Engels was
Ida too, probably.
Yeah, Ida, maybe even Trusty, but kind of the expenditure in that window was all players that Brendan Rodgers had identified. But again, it's I don't want to hear about this from a guy, the absentee landlord, about a guy who meddles in footballing matters but doesn't really take an awful lot to do with it. He just sort of exists as a sort of satellite to Celtic. But he's talking about Brendan Rodgers was backed what do you mean by that? To what extent was he back to gotten players? Because that's what we were joking about when the transfer window slammed shut in the summer there. We were like, we were kind of joking about, what are you moaning about? You wanted two wingers, you got two wingers. They're both for the left side, but you got two wingers, and then you got a left back in Sirachi who's played like 13 games in 2 years. So was Dermot Desmond doing that? So he was consistently backed by providing him with players of any description.
A number of players doesn't mention quality, does it?
Nobody buys that. Nobody buys that. When his comments were made public, I sought to address them directly with Brendan, and he met for over 3 hours at his home in Scotland to discuss the issue. Despite ample opportunity, he was unable to identify a single instance where the club had obstructed or failed to support him. The facts did not match the public narrative. Regrettably, his words and actions since have been divisive, misleading and self-serving. They've contributed to a toxic atmosphere around the club and fueled hostility towards members of the executive team and the board. Some of the abuse directed towards them and their families has been unacceptable.
Because Brendan Rodgers wanted more players. I mean,
this is what I said on the Discord.
Scandalous.
This is what I said in the Discord, and again, I hated how, you know, how my summation of events has panned out. But this is the board thinking we're doing everything right, and it's that guy's fault that we've got protests in the stands and joint letters written at us and abuse. It's his fault. He needs to go. Brendan needs to go. It's your fault. We're doing a brilliant job. That's what that says to me, Melly.
It does, and again, if at any point come, what was it, September the 1st or September the 2nd, that we could look at that squad and go, do you know what? The manager's been backed here. He's probably got everything he's after. We're ready to make a tilt towards the Europa League and the league. Look at the state of the Celtic squad right now. None of this matches up. Brendan Rodgers would never ask for this.
No.
And from what I remember he's not really been harsh to the board. He's tried to dance around it. He said they bleed for Celtic. We're all on the same page.
He annoyed the fans by doing that.
Yeah,
as well.
he annoyed me by
fans,
doing that because I'm going like that doesn't chime with what's going on here.
Remember Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay are in working on Christmas Day, feeding underprivileged children and all that sort of stuff. He couldn't have done more for the reputation of the board while still being realistic about it. That he went and he stood in front of bullets for the board constantly back then. Yeah, I mean, he might have slipped. And
but manager doesn't moan about stuff like that, though.
No, none.
Every Celtic manager does.
Every manager in world football moans about stuff like this. Brendan Rodgers wasn't some mad trailblazer out throwing everyone under the bus to preserve his own.
Mourinho or something like that. No, never. Even very recent press conferences, he has been, in my opinion, frustratingly gentle with the board, right? Because I'm tuning into those press conferences thinking, right, Brendan, give them hell. Come on, this is your opportunity. Tell us what really went on. And I suppose that's what led me to, I think I said at the time, after the transfer window, I said Brendan should have gone then. And I think what I wanted, my kind of dream scenario of that was that he would refuse to sign an NDA and just go out there.
I bet he wishes he does.
And I wish he had gone. And
that may be why he's resigned right now, but mate.
Well, I don't know. Well, again, more information hopefully to come. But again, I think he should have gone.
If he's resigned, he's not getting a payoff.
Yeah, well, again, depends how they're spinning it. It depends. Did he resign? Who knows?
There's resigning, there's resigning. You know what I mean? If you're sitting down with the guys that own the club and this is what they think about you, if this is how they're talking about you, if they're saying you're the guy that's to blame for all the trouble around here, you're going to go, do you know what?
If this is what they think about him, but they should have sacked him.
That's what I said weeks ago.
So if this is what they think, they should have sacked him tonight, but they haven't. He's resigned. So to me, that could mean he's going like, I can't do this anymore. You're at it here and I'm gone, and they've had to put this out to try and get ahead of it again.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're trying to get ahead of it. You know, this is the statement of all statements, and I'd be astonished if Brendan Rodgers kept his mouth shut on this one.
So just to finish up what I was saying about the press conferences, and yeah, I said that weeks ago. I said, if you genuinely believe that this guy's tearing the club apart with his actions and his poisonous narrative, sack him. Go in there, you cowards, and sack him, because he's clearly not the guy to take this club forward. What are you going to do about it? Oh, nothing. We're just going to go and tell the Sun about it. We're going to go and grass him in to Roger Hanna. So the press conferences, what I was saying there is that I found them frustratingly gentle with the board, because I found that he was going out of his way to say things like, it's not about the transfer window anymore. We tried to get some stuff done in the summer. For whatever reason, it didn't come through for us. And it's about the players who are here now. We're focusing on the future. How many times over the last few weeks did they say it's about getting the best out of the players we've got? And never addressed, never once, outwardly anyway, kind of overtly moaned about not getting any player A. Never once named a player, never even really mentioned a position. He just led other people to make their own minds up about right wing, striker, whatever it was. Time and time again, he was using very, very soft language to describe I'm happy to go out there on various podcasts that we've done and call them catastrophic failures, to the point where positions are untenable and everyone involved, quoting myself here, which is a cardinal sin on podcast here, but everyone involved in the decision making to delay transfers until after the Kairat tie should be resigning right now. But he's out there. No, he didn't say a word of that. He was just like,
They're absolutely deluded.
So I fundamentally disagree that he has been in any way responsible for the so-called poisonous narrative about the board. That is one. I just don't believe it, for a start, and two, it is tremendously condescending towards the fans, because we didn't make our minds up on this ourselves. We were led up the garden path by Brendan Rodgers.
Let me just, before you come in, Melly. Sorry, on you go. Oh, no, on you go. It's fine.
See if this is true, then us as fans will not go and protest against the board now, because Brendan's gone, the problem's gone. It's going to ramp up now for the board. It's going to get worse.
You're having a laugh. You're saying we're not the problem, then you bring in Martin O'Neill from the year 2000 to be your manager. I'll come to Martin in a way. I've got an enormous amount of respect for Martin, but let's get to the end of the statement. Every member of the board and executive team is deeply passionate about Celtic and acts all the time with professionalism, integrity and a shared desire for success. What has failed recently was not due to our structure or model, but to one individual's desire for self-preservation at the expense of others. Celtic's structure, where the manager oversees football, the chief executive manages operations and the board provides oversight, has served the club with great success for more than 2 decades. We all share the same ambition to ensure Celtic's continued success domestically and to achieve further progress in Europe. Every pound generated by generated by the club is reinvested towards those goals, presumably apart from the £77 million you've kept in the bank, and the continuous improvement of Celtic Football Club.
They won't remember.
Yeah. Paying the taxman more money than you're spending on transfers. Celtic is greater than any one person. Our focus now is restoring harmony, strength in the squad, and continuing to build a club worthy of its values, traditions, and supporters. Right, that's getting ahead of the story, as Melly, as you pointed out. So Brendan's gone. And it's all going to come out in the wash over the next couple of days. You know, this is less than an hour after the news is broken. We responded to it. I'm shocked. I'm astonished. I don't know how this helps your season. There's question marks, Melly, as you point out, over. But we will see. We will now see if Brendan was the problem or not. Yeah. Because you can't hide. The thing about bringing in Martin O'Neill is you can't hide behind him. This isn't John Kennedy. No. This is a bona fide football manager you've brought in with Sean Maloney. Sean Maloney, he was recently an assistant manager to Roberto Martinez, wasn't he? So
yeah, he managed Wigan for a bit. He managed Wigan.
Well, so this isn't the sort of John Kennedy will nuss through at the end of the season. This is a decision that's been made to bring in a professional football manager. Martin O'Neill himself was on TalkSport hours ago saying he backed Hearts to win the SPFL. Presumably he meant with Brendan in charge.
Yeah.
But I've got problems with that. I need to take in the full context of that, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But if Martin O'Neill's out there bumping his gums on TalkSport about how badly Celtic are doing and how he fancies Hearts to win the league, and 24 hours later he's in the job, there's no way he found out about it today. This has obviously been in the works. I've got problems with that, because that's Michael Beale turning up to Rangers pubs for me when Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is struggling. Don't like that at all. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, so I won't go tearing off on that one. I'll try and again take in the full context. This is an hour after the news broke, but if it transpires that that's what's been happening, because I know Martin O'Neill would be doing a lot of talking these days, that you can't move for Martin O'Neill in the press, so I'd be very disappointed to find out that he's been out there complaining about how bad Celtic have been doing. In the meantime, he's been chatting away to Dermot Desmond about maybe sneaking in there. Don't like that idea at all.
It's also putting new light on Neil Lennon's bold comments of the past couple of weeks, isn't it? First statement, Neil Lennon, how brilliant Lowell and Desmond are. Second statement from Neil Lennon on Sky, how there's too much complaining, the transfer window wasn't that bad. The writing's been on the wall here for at least a week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, getting his buddies out there to say stuff. Probably Lennon's probably thinking that he was in with a chance of getting the job, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, okay, you sacked an underperforming manager. That's fine. But to kid on the face of it, you have sacked an underperforming manager, as is your wont, as the people who run the football club. Or rather, he's resigned. An underperforming manager has resigned. The fact that my personal feeling of it is this is not going to alleviate the issues on the board. This is going to make it worse.
Yep.
That Dermot Desmond statement was exactly what wasn't required right now, because fans are pissed off, fans are angry at the direction of the football club. For Desmond to come out with that statement saying he was the cancer, he was the problem, we got rid of him, and now everything's going to be plain sailing, not a chance. It's you don't need to do that. Dermot Desmond at the end of the day needs to conduct himself as well with a wee bit of decorum and a wee bit of grace and a wee bit of dignity. We don't need you to air your personal grievances about the recently departed Celtic manager on the official club website. How about you keep your mouth shut?
Basics.
We don't need to know this. This is schoolyard, schoolboy shit that needs to be kept out of the club. If football club is bigger than one man, how come you get to fire open the laptop and throw Brendan Rodgers under the bus? Yeah, twice. Throw Brendan Rodgers under the bus to make your point. The club isn't your personal plaything. The club isn't your personal pet project, and it's not your personal message board either. This is a disgraceful statement from not a club chairman, but a club, majority owner. It's no made things any better. I'm really, really curious now to see. I thought Brendan Rodgers would get sacked when. And we might release the podcast we recorded because there's some good stuff on there.
Stick out Patreon for a laugh during the week.
There's some good stuff out there. But I thought once the dial turned against him in the stands, that's when he would get sacked. Basically, what I thought would happen has happened, but it's happened earlier than I thought. I thought he would get sacked. I thought the board would point to him as the problem, and they would bring someone in to save the season, and they would call themselves heroes. This is. To be honest, it's mental. What you do.
The dials went all the way back again, hasn't it? It was nearly at Rodgers' fault, and he's got to go. If they had waited a week today and Celtic had been beaten by Rangers and Brendan Rodgers was sacked, most fans would go, had to be done. Now we're looking at it going, what's happened here?
Yeah, so that's another
you've
thing.
Put it all the way back to he had to resign because of you.
That's another thing.
Jamie managed Nottingham Forest, Stephen, in 2019. Remember, you're asking
pre-COVID,
so longer ago than I thought. Right, so I think I said 6 or 7 years ago.
He managed from 15th January 2019 to 28th June 2019. So there you go. He did half a season and left.
No, great. So Jamie, you can maybe help me out here because you've got a hold of that statement ahead of you. Is there anything in there at all? I'm not asking you to read the entire thing again. Is there anything in there at all about results and performances? Anything about having lost 2 consecutive games is not really acceptable because, by Brendan's own words, at Celtic you need to win every game, and we've won 5 or 13. Is there anything
not off the top
in there?
Of my head, I don't think
anything in there about not winning enough games? Anything in there about how the unique pressures of Celtic mean you need to win every game or you're under pressure?
Nope, it's just about how he's made the board look bad.
Conduct, aye.
Right, okay, so that clears that up for me. So yeah, Jamie, you described the decision, or kind of speculated the decision, characterised the decision as, on the surface of things, sacking an underperforming manager. But there's no mention of that at all. The easiest thing in the world to say, at Celtic Football Club, you need to win every single game, and we've not won enough of those in the year 2025. Easiest thing in the world to say that. But he's chosen not to do that because, I don't think anyone would really believe that at this point. He's chosen to focus pretty much exclusively on his character and his conduct. And as far as I can tell, unless I am completely ignorant of stuff that's happening behind the scenes, I'm perfectly happy with virtually everything Brendan Rodgers has done in public. To be honest, I don't have any problem with
Should
it.
have done more.
Maybe I've scoffed a little bit about how he's done things, how he's worded things. I don't know. If I look back, I've probably kind of rolled my eyes at some of the things that Brendan Rodgers has said, whether he's exaggerating some things, whatever. But over the course, broadly speaking, I'm perfectly happy with how he's conducted himself because, in general, I think the fans agree with him. I can't speak for everyone because I know there's a lot of people. We even received a few comments saying, about time, get him out and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's fine. That's fine. If a lot of people wanted rid of Brendan Rodgers, but for those reasons, for it to come to an end because of the deeply flimsy reasons cited there, I think is absolutely disgraceful, to be honest. Again, I've not got a problem if you've just decided to act like a big club, a decisive club for once, and just come to the conclusion that we're not winning enough games and we're going to continue to drop points and lose games with this guy in charge. There's nothing I can say about that. I can't argue about it at all. But if it's just because some wee feelings were hurt behind the scenes, and I don't want to make light of the alleged abuse that people were receiving, I don't want to make light of that because that's serious. But even that, to directly draw the line between people feeling, I don't know, under threat or whatever, and Brendan Rodgers just being a forthright football manager, I think is appalling. If I'm honest, I think it's terrible.
While you were talking, I dug out the Brendan Rodgers comments about his job offer. So he was asked about. He previously said blah, 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 blah. He was asked about his contract. He said, "There's no further update, and for the sake of honesty and clarity, I can tell you exactly where I'm at." When I said when I came here, at first I would do 3 years minimum, and people had me out the door at the end of last season going various places. I said then, like I say now, there's nowhere to go. I love being here. I've done 2 years. I've got 1 more year to go. Dermot, Michael and I had a conversation over the summer, so he's acknowledging that this happened.
Yep.
We're on where we are at and where it sits with myself and everything else, and I'm very happy here. There's conditions we want to improve and to try to be better. I'm not the type of manager who is good at maintaining everything. Remember this statement came out?
Sure
if there's something to maintain, I'm not the manager of Celtic, it'll be somebody else. But to build and to grow. And when that time comes, when the club offer me a deal or not, it doesn't make a difference to me because every single day of my life, I'm giving everything to the last day. So when the club feels it is that time to make me an offer, then they will do. He's not... Why do we as supporters have to fish through lawyers with Dermot saying he lied about being offered a contract, but we didn't offer him a contract? Then you read it here, and he's been quite plain. They didn't offer him a contract, but Brendan acknowledged they had a chat about it and said, "I'll see what happens if they offer me a contract." What are we talking? About? To my ear,
granted, I'm no legal mind here, right? But to my ear, there, having read the supposedly conflicting statements between the two parties, there isn't an ounce of contradiction. There isn't an ounce of hypocrisy in there at all. It's one side claims that they signalled their intent to offer a contract but didn't offer a contract. The other side says, yeah, we spoke about it, but no contract offer was forthcoming, and we'll talk about it again. Again, to include this stuff in a, as you put it, Jamie, excoriating statement on a guy's character.
Yeah, they have assassinated his character.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that because, again, if it's all about the wording. It's all about the wording. If Dermot Desmond comes out and says, "Look, that guy's lying to you. We categorically can confirm the paperwork's there. We offered him a contract on this date, and on this date, he came out and said that contract offer didn't exist, misleading the public and causing this fury towards the board, who, as we can prove, offered him a contract." But that's not what's happened at all. Nothing even close to that has happened. They've just said, we thought about offering him a contract, we spoke about it. Brendan Rodgers says, yeah, they're probably going to offer me a contract, we spoke about it.
And is this the way it goes for any future manager? If you happen to have ambitions that don't match the Celtic's board and there's a bit of a fallout, Melly, is this what you can expect? Can you expect being dumped out of the club at whatever before a cup semi-final? Because they probably couldn't sack him, because you need reason to sack somebody. Yeah. There's contracts and all. So the only option was probably to resign. But is this the new normal for future Celtic managers? Are we to believe that if Martin O'Neill does a bad job or Sean Maloney does a bad job, they can be expected to be booted out the club at 9 o'clock at night, and then at 9:30 Dermot Desmond is on his Tumblr account slaughtering them? Is that? I mean, I'm making light of it, but if you cross Dermot, is that what you get? him just out the pressure, assassinating your character.
Seems like it. And Brendan Rodgers, when he has spoken, whether it be over the summer or recently, it's been about speaking to Dermot. So there's obviously been a fallout there since then, and this is what happens then. Once you fall out with him, that's you're done. And I genuinely can't believe that this is coming out like some sort of episode of EastEnders where we're going, oh no, I'll
Game of Thrones is what it is. Dermot Desmond is some mad king beheading the manager for speaking out of turn.
But looking at it now, I'm still in shock, obviously. I'm struggling to speak here, but it just seems like the manager, to my eyes, acted professionally. Probably, Stephen said he's not got a problem with what he said, but I think if we think back, we were a bit pissed off a lot of the time that he didn't go in further, and that he did say those things about the board, and that we knew he'd try and be professional because that's how he is. Yet the board in the background are going about blading him to the sun, putting out there that he's tearing the club apart, and now as soon as he tenders his resignation, this is what they put out to try and get ahead of it.
Do you know, some of the language in that statement was quite familiar to me. It did kind of sound like a Roger Hanna piece from a couple of weeks ago. I'm not suggesting it's the same person, but you know, it's along the same sort of lines, and it just shows you that, you know, that the COVID season, the comparison has been drawn with the COVID season, obviously, and it just shows you that Neil Lennon, they'll stick by you if they like you to the detriment of the club. But the minute you stop serving their interests, the minute you stop serving the interests of the board, you're out. And so Neil Lennon was there, but he obviously kept the board happy, even though the club was failing. So that keeps you about. Brendan Rodgers, the minute he upsets the board, then you're out. It's sort of some sort of weird sort of, as one of you guys put it, it's like a fiefdom melody. It's like Game of Thrones. Like, as long as you keep the king happy, it doesn't really matter what's happening with the club. Yeah. The club can sink without a trace. As long as you keep Brendan, as long as you keep Desmond on side, you get to keep your job. Yeah, and if we remember back to the COVID, Neil Lennon came out swinging, didn't he? After the Dubai thing, he came out, it wasn't our fault, we've been hard done by. But as soon as the fans started throwing sharks and things started to turn towards the board, what happened? Lennon got booted. And the same here. As soon as it starts to turn and it's the board that are getting all the cop, they're copping the flack. They're going, but it's Brendan's fault. They try to bin him so they can try and spin it that way. And again, they're just, like the statement earlier on in the season, like the piece with the Sun, this is just going to cause them another world of pain. If they think in 2025 that Celtic fans want Martin O'Neill or think Martin O'Neill is in any way an answer, even just as a figurehead, I cannot believe that a modern day football club thinks that bringing in a 73-year-old manager who hasn't managed since pre-COVID is going to appease fans. He's a legend here. We've tried Lenny, we've done all that. We'll bring in Martin, we'll get Sean in, it will get us through. What does this mean? Is he going to be in here to the end of the season? It's not even November yet. Well, who knows? True. I think, do you know what? I strongly suspect that most of he is a figurehead. I think most of the managerial on-pitch work is going to be done by Sean Maloney. He'll be the one. We still need to listen to Martin O'Neill's pish in the press conferences, don't we? But do you know what's astonishing me? We put out a wee tweet earlier on just saying, this Dermot Desmond statement's absolutely wild. A not insignificant portion of the replies right now are on the side of Dermot Desmond, saying he's bang on the money. There's a grain of truth in it. The statement is 100% on the money. Why would Desmond say if it wasn't true? Have you guys nothing to say on Brendan Rodgers' statement? I think it's spot on, to be honest. Wow. There's a lot. We've gotten to a point now where a lot of this support, they worship just guys in suits, just accountants and boring old fusty guys because they're successful. They've got loads of money. It must mean they're cleverer and smarter and better than us. Ignored. I think they need to be ignored, to be honest. And I don't care if people think that's out of order, me just dismissing other people's opinions. People are entitled to their opinions, but I'm perfectly entitled to tell them they're garbage. So just immediately, before anything really goes any further, immediately leaping to the defence of Dermot Desmond because presumably, I don't know, trophies, I think is
pretty tragic, really. And look, there are people who will throw themselves in front of any criticism of the board. But my hope now is that, look, it's weird. I've been on a bit of a journey with this. I turned up a bit bleary-eyed at nearly 10:30 at night. I knew my sort of weird, perverse, like adrenaline-fueled shock, bordering on excitement sort of thing. Like, we need to jump on, we need to respond to this. Has turned to just anger now. I'm actually pretty pissed off, and I'm actually getting more and more angry the more I sit here. So my hope is that this fan action, the Celtic Fans Collective, must now either ramp it up or give it up. No, I think stuff has to be ramped up. I am but a willing soldier awaiting my next orders. What is it? What do we do next? How do we action these things? Because I can't believe what's happened tonight. Look, did I want Brendan Rodgers long-term manager? No, I didn't. But this is, as I say, this is like dictator stuff we're seeing now from the Celtic board. This is not reasonable football actions. That you cannot convince me that a reasonable football decision is to get rid of Brendan Rodgers before a semi-final and replace him with a manager who a quarter of a century ago was talking about how he doesn't really take much to do with the tactics and the training. He's more of a motivational guy. We're hearing that 25 years ago, and now he's the Celtic manager. The job of manager is completely unrecognisable from today than it was even probably a decade ago.
Yeah.
And now we've got a guy who hasn't worked for 6 years, hasn't worked successfully probably since Aston Villa. Had an international job.
You didn't need him.
No.
See, if you're going to go to the trouble to sack Brendan Rodgers or he's going to resign, Maloney would have done.
Yeah,
Maloney and Kennedy.
Maloney and Kennedy.
That would have done. Why Martin and
Scott Brown would have been better. That's funnily enough. Like, a couple of hours ago, I joked about that. I was like, by the way, I can see them putting Scott Brown in because one, he's a really popular figure, and two, he's probably likely to be a board guy because he's waxed lyrical about Lawwell and all that before. So he would seem like the ideal candidate. I was talking to Malice a couple of hours ago, and now we're faced with Martin O'Neill.
I mean, God bless Martin O'Neill, but honestly, what you doing, man? There's no good can come of this. Maybe his reputation is sainted and it is fine, but does Martin O'Neill really want to come back, take charge of this team? These players will know who Martin O'Neill is.
Kobe Donovan wasn't even born when Martin O'Neill was Celtic manager.
So he comes in. These players are. This is basket case club stuff, which is absolutely astonishing to me. But Martin O'Neill's going to be, but his reputation isn't going to be enhanced in any way, and he's obviously not doing that. He's doing it out of a sense of duty. I get that, but I just mean it's a very, very odd in a way. You probably shouldn't have asked the guy because he would probably feel compelled to say yes anyway to do it.
Think so?
Well, obviously he feels compelled to say yes because he said yes. He's not doing it. Well, presumably doesn't he fancy firing on the old rugby shirt and the boots again and
number 31
and giving another 10 years of football management at 70 odds. He's done it as a salt. He's done as a favour for Dermot Desmond. Dermot's phoned him up. You don't think so?
Martin O'Neill, who's out there doing speaker nights all the time, who's putting out books all the time, gets an opportunity
quite recently.
Gets an opportunity to go in with manager of Celtic, and he's doing it out of a sense of duty.
An emergency managerial appointment
after his comments at the weekend. And again, world class in everything we do. Is this a world-class way to treat a departing manager, even if there has been a fallout or there has been that? This is petty and pathetic to me.
A guy who released a book not so long ago basically tearing strips off modern football and talking about how XG is complete nonsense.
Barely spoke about Celtic in it, no?
Yeah, now he's a Europa League manager for a world-class club. It's astonishing stuff.
He's going to be in the dugout on Wednesday night. We're going to be at the game, and Martin O'Neill's going to be in the dugout across with us.
Do you know what? All joking aside, I hope he puts the rugby shirt on and he's got the Brian Clough cosplay.
He's still going to be able to jump if we score.
Oh yeah.
It's such a look. This club's a basket case, man. Don't let anyone at this club tell you we need to be world class and everything we do and all that. This is. You went out, you took a treble winning team a couple of years ago under Ange Postecoglou. You had, as far as Scottish football is concerned, unlimited money. You had a blank cheque to do whatever you wanted with it. You went out and got, at that time, the best manager you could get. Yep. Whatever you think of Brendan, and you conspired to make a total arse of it. And I never in a million years saw this particular turn of events come in. As I said, I was kind of feeling over the past couple of days that the mood had changed. I was kind of feeling that, and if you were in the Discord, you would have saw this, that things were probably going to come to a conclusion for Brendan Rodgers if things got much worse. I don't think anyone saw this happening tonight. And who could possibly see it?
We were in the same room a couple of hours ago, and I just flatly rejected it every single time. And do you know what I said? Do you remember what I said about how I couldn't be categorical about any of it? I couldn't say for sure that I think Brendan Rodgers will be sacked. I couldn't say for sure that regardless of what happens in the semi-final, anything will change, because my reason for that was because I, even taken into full context of what I see in wider football, English football, German football, whatever it is, even if I take all the context possible into it, this will always boil down to the mad whims of one man. That's what I said to both of you a couple of hours ago. It will always boil down to how Dermot Desmond feels like behaving on any given occasion. And look where we've gone since then. This is where we were having a conversation about. I said, I hold my hands up. I said, there's absolutely no way. There's no way Dermot Desmond bullets Brendan Rodgers in mid-season. It'll never happen. And I could not have been more wrong. And I could not have been even
Brendan
wrong
resigned,
quicker.
Brendan resigned.
Well, but I suppose even if he did, even if Brendan Rodgers, taking everything at face value, even if I did accept that he has walked, for it to be followed up by a scathing statement by exactly the man that I said wouldn't do it, would tell everybody to just get on with it, and we'll see out the season. Everybody just get on with it. Don't care who hates who and who's snidey to who behind the scenes. Just get on with it. That's what I thought would happen. And 2 hours later, we've got a statement tearing the guy's reputation to shreds in a manner that this will be covered by every major football podcast in Britain in the coming days. Right? This is massive news. This isn't just
someone might suggest that was the point.
Yeah, maybe
it's not good enough just to have the guy resign. You must also assassinate completely his character and any future job prospects.
This gets well outside of the bowling club, outside of the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow and all that. This is a major. Yeah, again, he might have been on the way out at Celtic anyway. This is a major football manager at on the surface of things, a pretendy major club, right? Being shredded, publicly humiliated by his now former employee. Yeah, again. And so where we go from here? Strap in, man. We're on a hell of a ride here. We were previously spiralling out of control in terms of results and performances and failing to score goals and going out of the Champions League at the first available opportunity. We were in a spiral. Now we've got rid of the guy that a lot of people thought was the last man holding all this together. Did I believe that towards the end? Probably decreasingly so. But what else is there? What else is there holding this team together?
Let me ask you both.
Bringing in Barry Ferguson in it? As laughable.
Let me ask you both. Does this increase Celtic's chances of winning the Cup semi-final? Does this increase the chances of a positive outcome in the league this season and these upcoming games, or does it decrease the chances of that?
For me, it decreases it. We've seen, Barry Ferguson came in last season and was it 8, 9, 10 points, finished 17 points behind. Just because you bring in a figurehead doesn't guarantee anything. Yeah. Barry Ferguson wasn't a manager. He's more of a manager than Martin O'Neill has been. Now, I'm not saying he's Barry Ferguson's a better manager, of course. He has had a better career, but Barry Ferguson has managed since Martin O'Neill has left.
Well, this is the equivalent of Rangers going and getting Alex McLeish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Dick Advocaat or something like that.
John Kennedy's also gone, I've heard.
Is he?
Yeah.
I sat when I was giving over a memory cards to our video editor, Matteo, and as I was reading it, there was rumours that somebody said, rumours of Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane, I think it was, but there's also rumours that Brendan's been offered a new deal. This was a couple of hours ago that those two rumours were running at the same time, and now we sit here that Martin O'Neill's gone, and I think the John Kennedy thing as it breaks there is quite significant. John Kennedy has a job for life at Celtic, but he's decided to walk away here.
Yeah.
There's no reason John Kennedy couldn't have stayed and been part of that team, but he's decided to go as well. That's quite big.
Yeah,
I do wonder if I just wonder if maybe I'm sorry, I'm just keeping my eye on socials there. I wonder if, I don't think so. I was just going to wonder out loud if maybe Brendan had another job lined up, and he's sort of planning his future, and the board got wind of it and just like, enough's enough, off you go. Because I don't know. Just the Kennedy thing's throwing me a wee bit. Why would they sack the guy? He's been, as you say, Mel, he's been at Celtic for life. There seems, you're not a 50 Cent mean, the fuck did I do? Brendan, you're that. You take him on.
For a club that,
what did I do?
For a club that's obsessed with continuity, surely keeping John Kennedy around would have been something that could have kept this going. Brought in Maloney, brought in Martin O'Neill, and then go, do you know what? Brendan Rodgers has left, but we've brought in guys to steady the ship and go on. And it seems, but when he said, is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? A lot of these guys in that changing room are Brendan Rodgers guys. Kasper Schmeichel is, Kelechi Iheanacho is, Callum McGregor is, Kieran Tierney is, Carter Vickers. All these guys are guys that have worked under Brendan Rodgers for a long time. James Forrest, and now they've brought in a guy that these guys are like, who is this?
Yeah,
very, very, very strange. Look, lots to take place over. I mean, it's a new era for Celtic. Astonishingly,
the O'Neill years, boys, we're back.
I know. Astonishingly for Celtic, it is a brand new era. The statement said that the process to recruit a new manager is underway, so always an interesting time, always an exciting time.
January, man. Martin O'Neill running wild in the transfer window in January.
I just do wonder about that. I wonder about how long Martin O'Neill will be in charge, and I wonder if maybe we'll put our skates on and try and appoint somebody, or will Celtic sit on it and wait? Look, let's see what happens towards the end of the season.
If they sit on it, they're writing off the season.
Yeah, which you really can't do, but at the same time, maybe they'll be left with no choice. I don't know.
3 years in the showers after the cup final. 3-year deal for Martin.
I hate to say it, but I've got very, very.
It was a walk-in shower this time. They asked him in.
I've got that's a troubling image. I've got very, very, very little faith in this Martin O'Neill, Sean Maloney setup. Very little faith in it at all. So that remains to be seen how we go.
It's preposterous, Jamie. You've got little faith.
They've ripped apart Lennon's legacy. Aye. They've ripped apart Rodgers' legacy, and now they're probably going to rip apart Martin O'Neill's legacy.
It's an absurd appointment. We're being gentle here because we're the correct deference paid to a legend, a modern Celtic living legend.
Love
right?
the guy.
But he should be nowhere near a modern management job. Nobody else has thought to touch him. No one else has gone near him for years. And Celtic go back to it. It is completely and utterly insane. The English clubs change managers all the time, and not one of them has picked up the phone to Martin O'Neill because he is effectively a retired manager. He's on TalkSport all week, every week, talking pish to Jim White and Simon Jordan and all that now. And now, like we slag Barry Ferguson for being a Go Radio presenter. We've got a TalkSport guy now. I don't care about what he did 25 years ago. It's not relevant. So we can only hope that it turns out nowhere near as absurd that it appears to be on the surface of things, and there's some sort of mad genius alchemy at play here, because it is a ludicrous decision to replace a guy who, I mean, again, Brendan Rodgers might have had his day. We'll see where he rocks up, but he's considerably more relevant and more, approachable, or more appointable than Martin O'Neill is. And just to wrap up here, I know we've been on a long time, and we're basically just lurching from one shocked statement to the next as it seems. I need to go to my bed here. If I'm probably just lying there all night now, just full of adrenaline. But I'm deeply saddened by the end to this, because I never want this to be the legacy. I never want this to be the ending for anyone who comes in and tries to do their best for our football club. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is, unless more comes out in the coming days that paint him as the poisonous influence.
Villain.
Yeah, as the villain that Dermot Desmond has suggested there, fine. But I don't believe it. At this stage of the proceedings, I don't believe that to be the case. I can believe that he has done things that have really, really angered the guys in their cushy jobs above him, and they don't want them. They don't want their boat rocked and all that. I can imagine that he's done things to piss them off, but I don't think any of his conduct that I've witnessed in public is worthy of, one, being ousted from the club, and two, having his character shredded in public. But so I'm really pissed off at how this has ended. The end result is much the same anyway. I had no problem about it. I wanted to move on from Brendan Rodgers, but I didn't want to face months and months of the season with Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney. That's an insult, frankly, an insult to the intelligence of the supporters if they think that is going to, if that's the keys they're dangling, that's the shiny thing they're dangling in front of us to make us forget about what's been going on this season. Think again. I'm sure it'll work on some people, but I think this is criminal. This is negligence on a scale at which I've never really experienced at the club. Nothing against but Martin O'Neill or Sean Maloney or whatever, but this is completely beyond the pale.
So Brendan Rodgers thrown right under the Civic, and I just want to say, in the last, someone's put in a group chat here, and it's a great point to make. In the last 3 months, we've had various statements blaming the media, blaming UEFA's rules, blaming the fans, and now blaming Brendan Rodgers, all from the board. And just to finish up, there was a fan meeting recently. You mentioned the fan collective, Stephen. The board and the club very kindly met with the fan collective, have open and honest discussion with the fan collective. The question was asked about any, the relationship between Brendan Rodgers and the board, and the Celtic board are quite happy to put on the statement on their own minutes: the club did not accept that there is a disconnect between the board and the manager. So when they meet with fans, they can't even tell you the truth at that point. The whole thing's a shambles. The club is a mess. Don't let the happy clappers tell you otherwise. Nah.
Walkouts, boycotts. Calling for it now. I've got no influence. I've got no influence whatsoever. So I'm imploring whoever is in charge of making the decisions with the Celtic Fans Collective, ramp it up. Walk out of games. You
might ramp it up or wrap it. That is basically it.
Correct,
That's the message from us. I think
no more mealy mouth stuff about silences and no buying Adidas trackies and all that. This has got to ramp up now.
But from our point of view, we're in a new era with Celtic. Martin O'Neill's back, Sean Maloney's there. We want to see our team. We want to see our team win.
Era.
Well, listen, we are. The team still needs support. I mean. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I'm very intrigued to see how the next couple of weeks pans out. We've got Rangers next week. I mean,
Midtjylland, one of the most progressive.
Stephen, we don't care about Midtjylland. Nobody cares about the Europa League.
We're going to the home of one of the most progressive and forward-thinking clubs in Europe at the moment, with Martin O'Neill in the dugout.
Nobody cares. The club don't care, and we don't care about Midtjylland. I'm terrified about what's going to happen. Listen, thank you so much to everyone who stayed up late with us on Patreon to enjoy this podcast. As we said, we were more than happy to do it. It was our duty as podcasters, despite the fact that we've already sat down and recorded a full podcast, which is now, for the second time, Brendan, that's 2 flagship.
It's incredible.
That's
100% record of this now. That is amazing.
Thank you so much to everyone for your continued support. We really, really appreciate it, and we will be back with more of this as things unfold. As we see a lot of people signed up for the 20-minute Tim's free trial, you might as well hang about, because we've got pre-match and for post-match we've got Rangers coverage. We'll be at Hampden. I mean, it's
shit got silly. May as well hang around.
It's a mental time to be supporting Celtic, so you might as well stick around and hear more from us. Thank you so much, and we'll speak to you very, very soon.